afternoon. On the East Coast, good evening. I'm Mary Wolford, and I'm here with my teammates Chris Ngo and Charles Feng, and we are Team Synergy, and we're presenting a summary of our master's capstone thesis project, which is an improved methodology for tree preservation and sidewalk repair in the city of San Diego. And we'd like to start out by thanking our course professor, Dr. Jeffrey Attell, and our advisor, Adjunct Professor Kathleen Alexander, as well as our governmental sponsors who are here with us today from the city of San Diego, Micah Millay and Drew Pataki. We appreciate the help and support that you've given us. We might have been studying engineering management, so we decided to select a problem from a real-life engineering management problem with the city of San Diego Street Division. The Street Division manages maintenance in the most vital examples are street maintenance and sidewalk. This creates a repair backlog that the city's engineering staff in the Street Division must manage. They prioritize the backlog, and then as they're able to effect repairs, they design the appropriate engineering solution to create a permanent repair for the sidewalk and preserve the street trees, which is the challenge, because in order to repair the sidewalk, they cut the tree roots at the edge of the sidewalk, remove the damaged sidewalk, remove the tree roots, install a root barrier to discourage future damage, and then replace the sidewalk. So the problem is, depending on the configuration and all the many variables at each location, you can damage the tree or cause it to become unstable and fall over, which is certainly a risk for the city. So there's some risk management involved as well. So this requires some engineering expertise, and that's another problem for the city. With staff turnover due to retirements, transfers, city's reorganization of departments, as well as downsizing, the knowledge base is affected when employees with this expertise move on. So we found also that the city has no written policies and procedures in place that has been implemented by management, so this is another problem in the management of the backlog. So the purpose of our study was to find new solutions for the city that are not presently being used that might help them to better manage their backlog. So to that end, we did a review of literature looking for new construction materials and new engineering methods, and we did a benchmarking study to find what other agencies were doing in this area that could be shared with San Diego. In the same manner that our written thesis is organized in 5 chapters. So in the first chapter, we have an introduction and a hypothesis. The second chapter is our review of literature. The third chapter is the methodology for our research study and our benchmarking study. And the fourth chapter has our results, while the fifth chapter has our conclusion and recommendations. Next slide, please. Is that what it's supposed to be? I think they got out of order. Sorry, the next one. Okay. At this point, I'll turn it over to Charles Feng to talk about our chapter.
Thank you, Mary. Hello, everyone. My name is Charles. I'm going to talk about Chapter 1, background and problems, and Chapter 2, our review of literature. The city of San Diego has a backlog of damaged sidewalk locations that dates back to 2002. And the backlog contains over 5,000 locations, and about 250 locations have done any good engineering solutions and conventional methods. They can now repair the sidewalk without harm the tree. And the conventional methods contains the enlarge the tree well and narrow or relocating the sidewalk for the tree. And the problems can be traced back to the past city planners. Trees were planted in the public right-of way with no thought to how they would affect the surrounding infrastructure. And the failure of the tree has prevented the city from deciding on the best course of action to take to repair. Oftentimes, the best method of repair may be cost prohibitive, but no cost analysis has been done so far. Next slide, please. Part of the problem is poor planning and bad street tree selection eventually causes the sidewalk damage. For example, a big tree should not be planted in a small parkway street, and selecting the correct street tree can not only reduce the risk of sidewalk damage, but also save the causes of tree feeding and watering. The easiest way to repair the sidewalk is to take off the tree, but the citizens in the community care deeply about preserve the tree. They also want to arrive at the best solution of repair the sidewalk. Remove the tree is always not an option, but you cannot just take off the tree to repair the sidewalk. There are 2 locations in the city of San Diego. They all use the conventional method, which is enlarge the tree well to give the street tree roots more room to grow. One is long bowl cove, the other one is long branch avenue. Next slide, please. The hypothesis of our project paper is about newer construction methods, materials, and evaluation processes will facilitate better engineered design that would be environmentally friendly and provide for the repair of sidewalk damage, meanwhile to preserve the street trees. Next slide, please. There are 3 research questions that support our hypothesis. The first one is there may be some new construction methods and materials that cause minimum impact to the tree and reduce the likelihood of future damage to the surrounding infrastructure. The second one, having written policies and procedures for standardized evaluation processes aid in executing the repair of San Diego sidewalk. And the last one is the state of the tree, which is endangered trees, such as Torrey pine tree in the city of San Diego, has an effect on determining whether the tree will be removed or preserved. Next slide, please. In our review of literature, it addressed these 6 areas. Because they are all important variables that affect the sidewalk repair and street tree preservation. Next slide, please. To address those 6 areas, we conduct a review of current city of San Diego documents, which includes the standardized specification for sidewalk replacement and sidewalk repair contract document and street tree selection guide. And we also conduct a review of peer journal articles and other sources that discuss about the new construction methods and materials and which San Diego can use in order to repair the broken sidewalk and meanwhile to preserve the street trees. There are 3 pictures. One is the 18-inch deep root barriers, the standardized root barriers, the 12-inch deep, and the structural soil, which has more water permeability and air permeability. The last one is the plastic or rubber sidewalk panels, which can instead of the concrete sidewalk panels. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to hand you over to Chris, and he's going to talk about the methodology and the results. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Good evening, everyone. I'll be presenting chapters 3 and 4 of our thesis. Methodology is defined as a system of methods used in a particular area of study. For our thesis, we actually had 2 processes for our data gathering. The first process was an information gathering process, and that was broken up into 2 methods. The first method was a review of literature, and the second method was through qualitative interviews with City of San Diego staff members. We were fortunate enough to have Drew Pataki, our city's arborist, and Mike Millay as our sponsors, and the information that we gained from them was very valuable to our research. Moving on to our second process, which was surveys of other cities. We wanted to take the opportunity to use the surveys as benchmarking evaluations to find best practices used by other agencies. We also wanted to obtain written documentation in regards to sidewalk evaluation and methods of repair for tree root damaged sidewalks. Next slide, please. Thank you. So our questionnaire was set up to generate meaningful responses, but also to remain brief and concise. We were hoping that the brevity of our surveys would encourage more responses, but as you'll see in a future slide, that that was not the case. So this flowchart to the left was used as an aid in helping us formulate questions and in conducting the survey. And I'd like to actually, I'm not going to go through the entire flowchart, but I'd like to hit on two steps here. And the first step is define your goals and objectives. And I think this is a very important step before actually writing the survey or the questionnaire. And our objective for this questionnaire and our survey was to find new methods and materials that were being used by other agencies that were not currently being used by San Diego. The second step that I'd like to talk about is the sample set. So in order to get an accurate assessment of the data and also to generalize it amongst a larger population, we decided that we wanted to use a sample set that was as closely related to the city of San Diego as possible. What we ended up doing was we ended up submitting surveys to cities within Southern California. And that was due to the fact that the tree specimens that are selected per city were very similar amongst Southern California cities. But not only that, the climatology was very similar in the region. So during our research, we actually found that contacting agencies, getting email addresses, getting phone numbers, leaving voicemails, that was the easy part. After submitting these surveys, we actually found it very difficult to get information back from the contact. So after a lot of follow-ups, we were able to get a pretty good yield. Next slide, please. So this bubble chart shows the actual respondents, and out of the 11 surveys that we submitted, we received a response rate of 54%. And the cities in a counterclockwise fashion is Huntington Beach, Temecula, El Cajon, Los Angeles, Malibu, and I also consider San Diego as a respondent. Next slide, please. After analyzing the data that was gained from the surveys, we were able to come up with this chart. And what this chart shows is the 6 different methods that were commented on in the surveys, and as well as what cities were using these surveys. So you can see here, the methods are listed, and if we go to the next slide, please, I'll briefly outline what each method is. So methods 1 and 2 are actually temporary fixes. They're not permanent solutions to our sidewalk problems. The first one is asphalt ramping, which is where a city crew member will come out and actually lay some asphalt adjacent to the trip hazard, essentially creating a slope, an even slope. But that doesn't prevent, or that doesn't take away the tree roots that are protruding through the sidewalk and pushing up the sidewalk panel. The second method is also temporary, and that's a concrete shaving method. And what that is the city crew will come out and they will actually shave the trip hazard so that it's even with the adjacent piece of pavement. And again, that doesn't that continues to leave the tree roots protruding through the sidewalk and pushing them up. The next 2 steps are more permanent steps, and they both involve 12-inch root barrier. And what the root barrier does is, as the roots spread out, they'll hit this root barrier, as you can see here in this picture. They'll hit the root barrier and they'll dive. They'll dive to the floor. And so method 3 actually uses root barriers as well as enlarging the tree well, which gives the tree more room to grow, and it also levels out the sidewalk. Method 4, they actually use root barrier and they replace the sidewalk completely. So the sidewalk panels are lifted, the tree roots are pruned, the sidewalk gets put down, and everything is safe for the pedestrian.